Okay, so your assignment here is to use Photoshop Actions. Now, Photoshop Actions are something that, if you find on the internet, yes, you can download Photoshop Actions, but most importantly, they are for yourself. So if you have a signature way that you're editing your photos, and every single time you create a new layer, every single time you open up a curves and bring the highlights down, every single time you do this and then you sharpen, what you can do is you can create a set of actions. So it will basically, Photoshop will record the steps that you're using for the photo, and then you can save that for later, so that every single time you bring in a photo, you can just hit run on the actions and it will automatically do everything for you. Of course, with actions or like presets in Lightroom, one size does not fit all. It's basically like the first step that you do, and then you had to go in and fine tune because not every single image is going to be affected the same way, okay, as these actions. But for the sake of, I don't really care if you guys use actions in this class or you create your own or something. But for the sake of this, for the purposes of this assignment, I just want you to be aware of what they are and what they can do. So the Photoshop action that I had you guys install, basically there's one of two ways. Follow the directions in the assignment portal. It'll show you how to install actions, but most of the time if you just double click while you have Photoshop open, it will automatically install onto it. Um, so what you're going to do is you're going to go to Window. Okay, if you're in Photoshop, you're going to go to Window, and then you're going to come down to this panel. So it's Windows right to the left of the Help button. I'm not sure if that's showing up. It's not. It's right to the left of the Help button. And you're going to come down and you're going to check on Actions. So Actions will pull up any sort of actions that you have downloaded onto your computer. So we are going to, if you've installed it correctly, you should see something that says Elevate Auto Dodge and Burn. Now, dodge and burn in this case does not mean dodge and burn over on the left-hand panel. Those are destructive, and it's not talking about that, but it's talking about using curves to dodge and burn in a non-destructive way. So I know that's a little bit confusing because dodging and burning over here is a no-no. Like you never use this burn tool or the dodge tool over on the left hand panel. You're going to use curves to do the same thing. So here we have an image. You will have an image of a couple that you're going to be working with. And it's really as simple as clicking on the auto dodge underneath. You see it says elevate auto dodge and burn. So we're going to do the dodge first, and then we're going to go down here and we're going to click play. Yes. So it's saying this action will seek out the highlights in your image. After you run it, you can mask it, change opacity, double click the curves, hold Alt maneuver in the underlying layer. So basically what this is telling you is that this is what it's going to run. It's going to find the highlights, and then it's going to bring the highlights down a little bit. This is your starting point. This is not, oh, cool, it's one click button and it's absolutely fixed. It's your starting point, and then you can adjust the opacity, you can change the mask in it if you want. Um, all that stuff, you can change anything. You can expand or contract the highlight range if you want to. But this is just going to auto run it. So you click on continue. And do you see how this has created an automatic curve? So where it sought out the highlights of this image. You click on this. Do you see how it just brightened the highlights just a little bit? Do you see on her face? Let's check out her face a little bit. It just brightened up the highlights on her face to create a little bit more dimension. So that's all that's doing. But do you see how here it's saying that, here do we see we have a little bit of highlight blowing out here? Basically, if you just click on your curves and you paint with black, you can bring those highlights back. Okay, you can just bring those back. Just paint in those, and it looks like that was, maybe I paint these back in too. Okay, just so we're not blowing out any highlights here. Maybe paint those back in. Okay, but it's automatically done that, and I have curves, and so it's a non-destructive thing, but we're particularly just looking at her face here, and so we're seeing what that can do. Okay, now we're going to go to the Elevate Auto Burn do this. Let's click above this to make sure it doesn't get truncated. Actually, let's click on our background layer. Cancel. Let's click on our background layer so it doesn't go above that. All right, so then let's click on Elevate Auto Burn, click play. Same thing here. It's going to expand and contract the shadow range here. So it's going to do the same thing. Click OK. Do you see how it's created a separate thing for now all of the shadows? So if we click on this, do we see here the difference it's made with her hair in particular? So it's just taken those shadows and it's just given them a little bit of a pop, a little bit more of a contrast, but very, very subtle though. So, you know, here, if we didn't like that or we wanted to bring back more, let's say we wanted to bring back more, instead of painting with black, we'd paint with white, and maybe we would paint more on her hair here. Maybe around here, but it's very, very subtle. So here, this is the image before, and this is the image after. It's just given it a little bit of pop, and quite honestly, it's so subtle, but it's great. It's great, and you don't ever want your edits to look like edits. You want them to be subtle and enhance your photo. You don't ever want them to be noticeable. If I open up a photo and the first thing I see is Photoshop, then it's too much. You work the image too much. Here, you're just enhancing what you already have by increasing the highlights and giving the contrast to the shadows, and that's it. So you would go ahead and save this photo, and that's it.